Thank you, Mayor Nicholson, for, oh, recording thing. Let's see. Got it. Okay. So thank you, Mayor Nicholson, for being with us and sharing your time, because we know that it's valuable. We do want to give you a little update on things that we're looking at, and then you can share with us what's going on in the city. So that would be great.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the housing choice law that came into play, and that's helping with a lot of zoning issues that we're having. Housing affordability is definitely an issue and a challenge that we're facing. So that as we see more people going into Gardner and wanting, housing there, it's kind of like flows out from Boston, and we're at the point where it's the people are looking at Gardner as highly desirable. So that's, that's going to help the city, obviously, but we need people to have housing opportunities as well. So that's going to help a lot with zoning. And the RAFT program that is helping people not getting evicted, especially what we're facing through the pandemic and all of that. So that's helpful to people. The eviction moratorium lifted. So that's the RAFT is definitely a good option for some renters. There's also things that we typically oppose that are ongoing, that there's always bills out there for transfer taxes. We don't think that that is is equitable in terms of, taxing certain homeowners, but not the rest of the population. So that's something that we're always opposing. And we always look at promoting any type of home saving bills or opportunities for people to put money away so that they can put their down payment on their first place. Catherine, did you want to add anything?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm Catherine Rollins, the local policy person for the Mass Association of Realtors. I think Michelle just did a great job of very quickly pointing out some of our priorities. The other thing we're always interested in hearing about is use locally of American Rescue Plan Act funds. As I'm sure you know, Mayor, some of that can go to housing. There's also opportunity to put it toward water and sewer infrastructure, as well as broadband, all of which can make a community more attractive and unlock development potential. So that's another big thing we're always curious about, and would love to talk to you a little bit more about that as this goes on.
Awesome.
Thank you, Catherine.
I was taking notes, so
it's always helpful.
Thank you.
Shows you're engaged. So, and Nick, do you have any comments on being a landlord on rental properties, or what you're seeing for rents?
Doing a smoke inspection. Of course, Michelle, you had to call me in during the smoke inspection. Hold on one second. So I think in general, we've talked about this on quite a few meetings, but the theme hasn't changed. Where rental prices continue to rise, and we talked on a call actually last week about the concept of rent control. We don't feel as realtors that that's necessarily the cause to the disease. It causes a symptom, or it solves a symptom, but not getting to the root cause. And the root cause is we need to build more. Gardner, Fitchburg, Leominster, great examples of places that have lots of existing inventory that the mayor and I have talked about. How can we get some of this stuff converted to housing? Because the reality is, I don't think we're going to see a return to some of the commercial districts that we used to have and repurposing those into residential. I look at it as a hand back and forth, right? I just finished a residential project, as some people know, in Fitchburg. And so for me, it's kind of now, okay, we put 7 new residential people there. Now it's kind of a hand back to some of the commercial development that's going on. And then you hand it back to residential, because it can't go, commercial can't just shoot up without the residential to support it. And residential can't just shoot up without things for people to do. So that's kind of my overall description of where I see things at, and it's just a hand back and forth, and we just got to keep moving forward one step at a time.
Thanks, Nick. So Mayor Nicholson, do you have any questions or comments on any of those over all things that we just kind of threw out there?
I've certainly got a couple comments. Some of them are actually planned in my presentation that I was planning on giving. So that's good that we were able to unknowingly coordinate that way. But I will say this too, and those of you who were with the group of us last week when Mass Hire did their ribbon cutting in Leominster, heard when we were talking to Secretary Rosalind Acosta from Labor and Workforce Development, that there is a bill in Boston right now for new housing development and housing related projects put through the state's several $billion surplus that they're having right now. And I think Governor Baker's trying different things to try to push different housing projects, like the housing choice bill that was adopted last year that created that zoning change. And I think, well, I can say flat out, I agree with Secretary Acosta's approach and Governor Baker's approach that there are certain housing issues that existed before the pandemic that now became highlighted because of the pandemic. And we can't fix certain workforce related issues until we fix those housing related issues. I agree exactly with what she said with now that 30% of employers in Massachusetts have decided that they're officially going 100% remote going forward and not going back to the traditional office setting, that people are going to start looking for different places that aren't, the Suffolk County metro Boston area, and are looking for other places. And if we can't have affordable housing out in other places of Massachusetts, they're going to go look for that New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, some other places, because if they're keeping the same job that they had with the same salary, but now not having to go into that congested downtown Boston, Seaport, Boston area, they can be able to move someplace that before they weren't able to do. So I think that by providing these new housing options, it helps our workforce in the end and kind of helps with the employment shortage that we're seeing now. I can say right now with the kids who I graduate with, the kids, listen, my own friends that I graduated from college with 5 years ago, my best friend just bought a house down in South Carolina. He used to work for Bose in Framingham. But when Bose announced that they're allowing people to permanently work remote to cut off on their overhead, he's now down in South Carolina because it was cheaper to buy a house by himself in South Carolina. His parents wanted to be closer to him. They just bought a house down in South Carolina. And so it's things like that that are a trend we're seeing with people my age, that if we don't find ways to make these new housing options available at a place that people can afford, we're going to see a trend like that happening, and trying to find a way to capture that market, not just the people who are now moving from Boston to Gardner because you can buy something in Gardner that you can get a cinder block for in Boston, but also because there's different other options available. We were working with a condominium developer whose whole style of the house changed. Each condo was going to be 3.5 stories, and in each individual unit was going to be 3 bedrooms and then 2 dedicated office spaces, on the grounds that you're trying to capture families that are moving out. So you traditionally have 2 parents and then a kid or 2, but that way you don't have to convert a bedroom into your office space. Each parent would have their dedicated room in these condos so that they would each have their work from home room. We are still working on finalizing a location for that developer. It's Levi Architects out of Cambridge is who's being the developer on that one. They were looking down off of Parker Street, but there was some issues with wetlands over there. So they are changing their location and where they're going to be looking. But we are still working with them, and they are still interested here in Gardner. But I think it says a lot just there too, that they're changing their whole model of how they construct a condominium because of the people shifting because of remote work. And I think that that's probably going to be a trend I can guess that we're going to see in different developments that we have moving forward. But I do have some exciting news to share with you here today. In fact, some of it is only public as of 6 o'clock last night. And I was really hoping it was going to be public as of 6 o'clock last night, or I was going to lose a lot of my talking points. But there are, I'm going to share my screen at some point. You'll see some PDFs of banners that are currently at the printing shop. So you'll be the first to be able to see those as well. They will hang in downtown Gardner and just highlight some of the different projects that we have ongoing here. But with the stuff I just said, are there any questions about what I've said so far? Because I kind of word vomited a lot. And if there's anything, any questions along the way, just interrupt me, especially when I share my screen. It's hard for me to see everyone. So please just feel free to talk out and interrupt me that way.
Okay.
Mayor,
And-
I'd like to ask, I kind of follow up on what Nick said about residential going into things that once were commercial. I think a lot of people see Gardner's downtown as,
Mhm.
wishing that the downtown was what it once was. And, I think we all realize that the downtown will never be what it once was because of the Walmarts and the internet and everything like that. And some communities have really resurrected their downtown by mixing more residential into the downtown and bringing people into the downtown like after 5 o'clock because they're living in that area. Goodnose was converted from a commercial to a residential situation. Are there more plans to do that to make downtown more residential?
Chris, you could not have given me a better segue.
Okay. Okay.
Without further ado, we'll share our screen here.
Okay.
Our first one. And you'll have to give me a second to scroll past a couple of these here because they are all together.
Mhm.
But we are in the middle of a massive revitalization project in our downtown. If I can scroll quick enough here. In which is close to $10 million we'll be investing in the downtown in the next year. And that includes that we received $1.3 million from the state's underutilized properties grant program to completely gut rehabilitate the old Temptations in the Ryan Block building in our downtown. This is a $4.4 million project total that Gary Lorden is taking the head on, and that'll result in 24 to 28 luxury market rate apartments just in the heart of downtown. For those of you who may not be familiar with this area, it is in at the corner of Parker Street and Connor Street, just down the street from Gardner City Hall. So that was announced last evening. It's also going to be the additional 43 parking spots in the back to provide parking for the people who will live there as well.
Mhm.
This is something that I'm very excited about. I mean, this whole 11 slides is something I'm very excited about. So I'm not going to repeat that every time. But again, we've never put $10 million into downtown. And if we did, it was probably 100 and something years ago. And it's good for us to, I'm just moving my screen here if you see me moving my head so I can try to see as many people as I can. I think it's something that if you look at downtown Gardner now and you look at downtown Gardner next year and the year after that, it's going to be night and day because we are bringing in so many people into the downtown area through this project. These buildings have been vacant for God knows how long. And even before then, they really weren't in the best of shape because you had absentee landlords that the city purchased these buildings from just to try to get Dean Marcus out of downtown. And it's finally paying off. We are one of the first communities to receive the underutilized properties grant. This is something that the Commonwealth has just recently released, and we are in the first round of funding. The fact that we were able to get $1.3 million, we're on the higher side of the different projects that received this grant funding, and it gives Gary that amount he needs to be able to collect to get the right return on investment that he wants to be able to really do this project. It's a complete gut rehab. The two buildings right now technically aren't connected. As a result of this project, they will be connected. So it'll be one big unit. The elevator in the back needs to be replaced. If you drive in the back of the building by Chair City Pharmacy, that used to be the eye doctor, that before that used to be Abishan Hardware. It's all wood shingles going all the way down the back of that building, which is a massive fire hazard. So that all has to be replaced. There's a whole lot of code upgrades that have to be done just to bring this up to code. So this is probably going to be one of the bigger projects that we're going to be seeing in this section of the downtown. Now, I'm glad we got to start with this. So Chris, thank you very much for making it. So I had to start with this.
Okay, you didn't tell me about this. It wasn't like you told me to say that.
No, I know. I was just going to say that was a perfect accident, is what I call it.
Okay.
You'll see all these windows in the Temptations building and on the other side of the dance studio as well. These banners that you're seeing here, we are actually printing and putting them in those windows. So one, it looks nicer when people drive by rather than seeing an empty building through the windows. But two, it's a way people can actually be able to see what's going on in the city. So we are going to print all of these and put them in the window that's there.
So are those up on the screen right now, or we see the two buildings, but?
No, the banners are currently being printed. So they are not on them now. Can you see where my mouse is turning right now, where the text down here? Okay,
Yes.
just make sure. I want to make sure my zoom in was good on the shared screen.
So, Mayor, that involves both those buildings or just the one to the right?
Both of those buildings.
Both of those.
Both of those buildings. It'll be 24 to 28. We
Wow.
might be able to get close to 30.
Wow.
In
Wow.
that one there in downtown.
That's a big improvement. Yeah.
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 So
And Mayor Nicholson, did you have a present? Do you want to keep going on your presentation?
sure.
Okay.
Let's see what one's above it. We can go back and forth here. The old Rome building down at the corner of Main and Willow Street. We did receive funding from the state site readiness grant program, and we are in a signed purchase and sales agreement with a pediatric dentist office out of Worcester. They're going to pay to knock the building down. They own the building the lot immediately next to it, so they own the parcel next to it. They're going to purchase this from us. They've agreed to let us improve the intersection because right now you can't take a left-hand turn when you're coming down Willow onto Main because the building is so close to the road that it blocks the line of sight. And they are planning on building a brand new pediatric dentist office in that area as well. So that'll be a new development there in the city.
That's right opposite the police station, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Right.
If you remember here, this is somewhat of an old picture, but these bricks right here fell on the sidewalk a couple years ago. The building again was just in disrepair. So the fact that we're able to take that down and add something new and developable and just bring some new life to the area, I think is good because it helps bookend our downtown. We had the police station on one end. This will help revitalize the other section of that entrance into the downtown. And then we've got the underutilized properties at the other side of the downtown. It's trying to start from the outside and move inward, particularly with this next project that we have here. We received $4.1 million in a MassWorks grant award. This is also brand new, announced yesterday. This is for Rear Main Street. So for those of you who are familiar with downtown Gardner, this is right behind Priscilla's, Velvet Goose, John Sports Shop in front of the library. The state came in and put that brand new road that connected the library to the police station. And this is what that development will now look like. So the MassWorks grant is going into putting in this new event plaza that you can see here and 165 unmetered parking spots. This existing structure that's here. That's the old factory smokestack that we now use as a cell tower. That has to stay there. Right here is the parking lot behind Priscilla's Candy to orient you here, and the library is up here as well. So that's 160 parks. There's dedicated spots for food trucks. There's information kiosks. There'll be a place that we can flood in the wintertime for outdoor skating. Should be a nice little addition to the downtown. And then over here is a new 4-story, 56-unit apartment building that EA Fish is developing for us. EA Fish is the company that developed the lofts at 30 Pine a couple of years ago and is using the state's workforce housing program to construct that new building in the downtown as well. The workforce housing program requires that 20% of the units that are there be affordable rate, 25% be market rate, and the rest of it be what's called a worker rate, which is the halfway between what market rate and affordable rate would be. So that's going to be the mix of that building here. I do have a rendering of that building, I believe, on the next slide here.
How many did you say? 52? Okay.
Yep, 52.
So you had a good night last night.
We had an excellent night last night. Let me tell you. The rest of the projects we'll know about, but it was the underutilized properties grant and the MassWorks grant all got released yesterday. So I was very anxious to make sure I got this here. But EA Fish, like I said, did the lofts at 30 Pine. They are the ones who are taking the lead on this one, and we are working with them on doing this. I expect construction on this one to begin sometime next summer, and the building will probably be open in 2023. Whereas the utilized properties program over at the Temptations building, I expect that one probably construction starting in the spring and probably by November-ish, if we're being optimistic. If not, by January or February, we'll start to see some of the apartments open for rent in the downtown area. So that's the biggest part of our downtown improvement projects that we have there. But we are doing a little bit of some other smaller projects, if you will, to try to just improve the greater downtown area. one of those, if you build it, then they'll come type aspects to it. And that's what the remaining portions of this PowerPoint are. Some of you who are driving through our downtown now may have seen the new flagpoles and flower boxes that we put in just to improve the visual appeal of the buildings. The flagpoles, the rendering you have here is actually old because the flagpoles were installed last Friday. So if you drive through downtown Gardner at Bullnose Park, right at the intersection of Pleasant Street and Main Street, you'll see the 3 new flagpoles that are there that fly the Gardner flag, the Massachusetts flag, and the American flag. The new planter boxes are all out. They'll be taken back in on December 1st just because of the weather and needs to plow. We're trying to make sure that we don't ruin them because of the snow. But how that works is we've built the boxes and the sponsorships are for whoever plants them. So if you plant and maintain the box, you can get your name on the box for the year. It's no cost other than what you pay for the flowers that go into them. And then Concrete Solutions, which used to be known as Jandris Block here in the city of Gardner, did donate the upper one that you see in front of the old Gardner Visitor Center. That Chair City Church has sponsored this past year, but that's all donated by Jandris. These are just different things that we're trying to do to improve the visual appeal of the downtown, similar to our banner program, which I believe is on the next slide, that we've offered for the past year and we'll be offering again next year. You can choose any of those 5 banners at the top. And for, I believe it's $150, you get your banner up for the year. So the different businesses we didn't sell out this year. We did have about 20 additional banners that didn't get sold, but we're hoping now that they've been up for a year that by the time they go out again in Gardner Square 2, who sponsors this, goes out again in December, we'll be able to finish off the new light post banners that we've put out there. It's just, again, it's a way to try to tie people into the area and feel connected into the area. If someone sponsors a banner and they drive through the downtown, they have a reason to be like, hey, I did that, and feel a connection to the downtown, rather than just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll help that out and I'll move there forward. And it also just helps put a name to someone. If someone didn't sponsor them, but they're new to the area and they're driving by and they see John Sports Shop, they might ask, where is John Sports Shop? What do they have there? And it's just different things like that that we're trying to boost some recognition here in Gardner and show places where they can eat, play, live, shop, and work. Work is our newest one, which if you notice on the slide at the top, it looks a little off than the rest of the ones. That's because it's actually a picture of the banner. We only started with the 4 that you see in the front of that, but then you had places like GFA or Boucher's Funeral Home that didn't fit eat, play, live, and shop as well. So that's why we added work into there. So that's another different project that we're going to continue next year, just to see if it adds a little community morale and boosts some support that way for the downtown. Our Complete Streets project is a lot more than the downtown, but it's something that is growing throughout the city, and it does go through the downtown. There are 2 different aspects to this program, and I can tell you the long and short is it increases our bike paths and bike lanes that we have in the city. By the end of this year, we'll have bike paths that connect Route 140 at the Winchendon line through downtown Gardner, all the way to Hubbardston on Route 68 by Walmart. Then additionally, where the bike path ends now is down by the veteran skating rink. We'll have another extension that goes around the Greenwood Pool area, up through the North Gardner Woods, around Crystal Lake Cemetery, around the Gardner Golf Course, and it can connect to Route 140 that way. And then next year, the state will start their construction on the pedestrian bicycle bridge over Route 140 that will connect the bike trails in Gardner and in Winchendon, similar to what we saw in Leominster over Route 2 this past year. So that is happening within the next year or 2 in Gardner as well. However, if you drive through Route 68, you can actually start to see the state painting the new bike trail lines on 68, particularly by Timpani Boulevard. They were spraying in the rain, so if you drive at night, you'll see a little extra spots around. We're hoping to get those power washed off within the next week or 2, but we have to wait for the rain to die down for ourselves too. But that is something that we'll be seeing there. Where they drive through the downtown, it'll connect from the skating rink around Monument Park, down Central Street, and then shoot off onto Rear Main Street and Derby Drive, where those new apartment buildings saw. But that way we also aren't congesting Main Street and Pleasant Street, where it's already kind of tight and difficult to drive around that way. But it still makes it so that we'll have some extra bike traffic. We are talking with Uber and the other bike share programs. Uber has a program that we're seeing in several different larger cities where you can take your Uber app and scan it on a bicycle, and you get to rent that bicycle. And so long as you drop it off at an Uber rack, it's there. They do the same thing with motorized scooters, which I thought was kind of cool when I visited DC, is you can get a scooter and you just push a button and you can scoot around the city that way. So it's just another different thing that we're trying to do to help build different ways people can get around downtown Gardner. You're not going to need a car if you live in this apartment building to get to the ale house. But if you've had a long day at work, it doesn't mean someone's not going to want to walk from their apartment building to the ale house. So it's just another way to try to see if we can boost something that way. It's getting people to the downtown, but also helping the people who live in the downtown get around the area that they live as well. On top of this, we're also adding a flashing crossing beacon at the ale house at the intersection from the West Street parking lot. So if someone is leaving the ale house at like 11 o'clock at night and it's dark, you can push a button, the yellow flashers will go off. That way it's safe to cross the street there. We're also doing the same thing at Green Street by Mount Wachusett Community College to connect the bike path from where it gets out near the WGAW radio station to across the street at the college. Again, to make sure that we're making it so we minimize any accidents that could happen in that area as much as we can. So that is our complete streets and mass trails program that we're working on. Our water infrastructure improvement project seems to be the bane of my existence, in all honesty. It's been the digging in the street that's happening since I took office, and I'm ready for it to be done myself, but it was a 100-year project that we just simply had to do. It's $11 million from our water enterprise account, and it's replacing all of our water lines that were put in between 1880 and 1930. It's work that needed to be done. And again, 1880, 20 years after the Civil War, 1930, 3 years before my grandmother was born. And it's just, we had wooden pipes. We had one wooden pipe that got replaced. If you remember the big colossal water main break that happened in early August this year at the Congregational Church at the Uptown Rotary, the city lost 4.1 million gallons of water because the shutoff valves were installed in 1887. Now, when you have what's called a butterfly valve, which means, and I'll use my cell phone as a prop here, if you turn the valve this way, it's good. And then to shut the valve has to turn that way. They call it a butterfly valve because it looks like your kindergarten bee that you have there. You have the line down the middle and the two wings on the side, and you turn it. Well, if something's been in the ground since 1887 and it's metal from 1887 and you have it around water 24/7, it's going to rust. So why we lost 4.1 million gallons of water that day is because the valves were rusted open. And when we tried to close them, they were so rusted that they just snapped and the wings on the butterfly flew into the pipe. So there was no way for us to shut off the water. We had to call in Hydrotech, which is a specialized company, to drill into the fully pressurized pipes and drop a valve into the 16-inch diameter main in order to shut the water off. And the water finally got shut off at 11 p.m. that night. The ironic part is that section of the pipe was a week out from being replaced and part of this project. So it shows why this is a project that we needed to do. We did put in from a state program because while Gardner has American Rescue Plan funding, so does the state, and the state hasn't released those yet. So we did put in for an additional $11 million from the state's ARPA funding to see if we can get that to continue replacing the pipes that we have between 1940 and 1960. Just to continue to bring our infrastructure up to modern times. But we at least can get the Civil War era and Reconstruction era pipes out of the ground and get those moving now too. So that's something that's been taking a while, particularly up in the Woodland Avenue section of the city, where there's just a lot of ledge. And that's the main issue, is that in some places the ledge is so close to the street that when we're digging, we have to spend extra time digging to put the pipe in the ground to be able to put that in. But at least that'll be done. The place that we put for Pearl Street, we are paving over those curb to curb. The ones that we did last year have their set coats of pavement in. The ones that we're doing this year, we'll put the base coat of pavement on, let that sit for the winter time, and then put the second coat of pavement on in the springtime. We do that as a full prevention plan because if we with that base coat happen, because water mains are so pressurized, they actually shake in the ground, that we let the soil and the sand and everything around the pipes settle with that vibration. And if any potholes happen because of any frost heaves, any shifting in the soil or anything like that, we fix it with the base coat. And then when we put the second coat on, with that second coat now not only has a full year to harden without any cold weather, when we put it on in the spring, because it has spring, summer, and fall to sit before we have any snow, we hope, and harden a little extra, but we also take care of those other issues underground that could happen by fixing it with a base coat. And that way, when the second coat goes on, we really have a stronger, sturdier street to go off of. So that's how we'll be doing that there. And that's something that we started last July in terms of paving our streets that way when we put in a new water pipe. So I'm really happy that we're able to continue that there. But I understand it's been the biggest pain, and it's been Gardner's version of the big dig for the past 2 years, but we'll get through it once it's done, and it needed to be done. And as I'm scrolling, if there's any questions, please feel free to ask those at any time as well.
So there's paving going on in downtown as well, right?
Yes, so we did
Construction.
Main Street and Pleasant Street last year. This year, we're doing Connor Street and Parker Street. On top of, with that too, I should say that last year, as part of the water main infrastructure project, we did Graham and Richmond and Vernon. Then the year after that, Unitil did a gas detection survey in the area and found some small gas leaks in their pipes under the ground on those streets, and they had to dig through those. I put in a new policy when I came in last year that if the city's paved a road and there's a private utility that has an issue under the street and it's within 5 years of when the city paved that road, that private utility has to pay the city for curb to curb pavement if they dig in that road. So Unitil is paying for us to pave curb to curb on all of those streets because they just finished replacing those gas lines that had leaks. So they paid for that. Same thing up on Chapel Street and Willow Street and on Lovewell, where the NCCI Gardner Prison Facility paid for the pump station upgrades out there because they had to dig into the roads. They paid for the pavement on Chapel and Willow. And in front of Holy Spirit Church at Lovewell, where Unitil put in a new gas line there, but we paved Lovewell. They paid for us to pave that section of the road. So that's another way we can kind of get through and pave there, is if we've invested the money to pave on that street and then you go in and dig up my street, I'm not going to be the one to pave it because you messed it up for us. So they are paying us to pave those streets in those areas as a payment for having to dig in the street.
And what's going on with Timpani Plaza area?
So Timpani Plaza's area. So let me find out how to unshare my screen. Now that I graduated, I don't Zoom as much anymore.
Mhm.
The Timpani Crossroads area is growing. Starbucks is having their ribbon cutting on November 4th. They'll have their soft opening on October 29th. And then further down on Timpani Plaza, the Community Health Center has their expansions groundbreaking on November 5th. So there's a lot going on there. In Timpani Plaza itself, there were some plans pre-pandemic that kind of got put on pause because of the pandemic, mainly because the main driving force behind those changes was going to be Gardner Cinemas. They were going to go into where Big Lots is and add an additional 8 theaters, and Big Lot was going to move on the other half of the old Stop and Shop where Tractor Supply took the other half. However, Gardner Cinemas was one of the places that was the hardest hit because of the pandemic, because they took the longest to be able to open under the regulations. So that's kind of put on hold there. The Garbus lot is currently for sale. It is fully cleaned. Mass Development has officially given us to go to put it on the market. So that is on the market now. It is 10 acres of slab ready property. So we are looking for people to take that over as well. And the Gardner Redevelopment Authority is the one who's taking the lead on marketing that right now. But I do have a rendering here of what the Community Health Center will look like. I just have to find the right slide to take that from.
So you're trying to get more commercial properties to come and restaurants and things like that to come into Gardner?
Yes, that's exactly what we're trying to do. Yeah. We are working, we are in discussions with 110 Grill to see if that has expressed interest in coming to the city. They're just looking for a location to come. Same with Hot Table, which is a panini restaurant out of Hadley that started in Hadley right off of the Amherst border near UMass, and then has expanded into Marlborough and Framingham and Worcester. And they're looking for another location. So they've also expressed strong interest in Gardner. We're just trying to find a place for them to come in. There is a new smoothie / coffee, specialty coffee shop coming into the downtown next to where the old Crown Chicken used to be. So there are some other food places, some other commercial businesses that are interested in coming in. Bria Coffee out of Holden. A lot of people pronounce it Brilla because of the way it's phonetically spelt, but the company comes from Latin America, so Bria is how they pronounce it. They've opened 2 coffee shops in Holden and 1 coffee shop in Northborough, and they're also interested in coming to Gardner as well. So there's a lot of different new places that are interested in coming into the city, into the downtown, into our different more congested areas is the wrong way to put it, but places like Tiffany Boulevard, where we have the high traffic areas, places like the downtown, where we're building the traffic in the area. We're still early on in a couple of those that are interested in coming in.
Mayor, are you looking to put some type of factory building on the 10 acres of the old junkyard area off the Tiffany
In the garbage
Plaza?
lot?
Yes, yes.
We'll take whatever we can get.
Yeah.
Is the long and
Okay.
short of it. So long as it's slab foundation,
Mhm.
we'll take whoever wants to come.
Okay, could be factory, could be like another mall or something like that, or
Yeah,
whatever.
I know it's what I think seeing some type of factory would be good. Apex has expressed some interest in the property. If you've been to Marlboro, they have that new entertainment complex that is over there. They've expressed some interest over there. It's different things that are unique is what we're looking for. And I've said this from the start when I used to work for Mayor Hawk, is that what we want to do is do something that makes Gardner unique, so that when people hear Gardner, they don't think it's that random dot that the weatherman is talking about when he's talking about who got the most snow that storm. It's
Right.
the spot that's like, oh, there's that there. It's some people now know the old chair city adage. But when I was in college and I said I'm from Gardner, the biggest response I got is, where's Gardner? I've never heard of it. So how can we change that perspective and make it so that people want to come here, whether or not it's trying to live here or if it's just trying to find something to do? Because right now, if I want to go to someplace like Apex, I have to go to Hadley or I have to go to Marlboro. If I want to go to someplace like the hockey arena down in Worcester, I got to drive 40 minutes down to Worcester. What can we do here in Gardner that makes Gardner unique and stand out? And that's been the main force. And who are we attracting for businesses that come here? What type of projects are we drawing in here? And I think that that's something that if you don't have that perspective in this modern day and age, you're going to get caught behind it, is what my philosophy is on that one, because everywhere else is doing it. So why aren't we? Because if we don't do it and everywhere else does, we're the ones who get stuck 20 years in the past. And we're not now trying to bring us into 20 years ago, but now we've got 40 years of catch up to do.
You mentioned the visitor center a little bit earlier, and of course we had that TV program which came into Gardner to shoot, talking about Gardner. First of all, the visitor center, I told you that when I spoke to somebody at the Leominster Visitor Center off of E2, that they told me that that is not state funded, it's something that Chamber of Commerce, the Leominster Fitchburg Chamber of Commerce runs. And I wondered, which was news to me, I wondered if the city could partner with the Gardner Chamber of Commerce to reopen the visitor center so that we have a place for people to come and learn about Gardner.
So the Gardner Visitor Center, which is located at the intersection of Lake and Central, for those of you who may not be familiar with the area, we are actually in talks with the Commonwealth to take ownership of that building. Right now, DQ from the state owns that building and rents it out to DVR. Through the acts of 2020, Representative Zlotnick filed a bill to make it so that the city owns it because we can have a little more control of it that way. Whether it's a new visitor center or we work with different places to highlight the city history the different way, because a lot of the feedback we're getting is that the visitor center kind of had duplicative efforts with the Gardner Museum, but when the Gardner Visitor Center started, the Gardner Museum wasn't as strongly founded as you will. It didn't have as much of a following as it does now.
Right. But of course, the Gardner Museum is not open. They don't have long hours, the Gardner Museum, whereas the visitor center would have a longer.
Yeah. So we're working on different plans for that way. We've also had a restaurant who's interested in it. I can't say who, because we're still very early on in those discussions. And there's also another beauty salon that was interested in it. There is interest in the building, and I have to keep telling them the state hasn't given us the deed yet. But
Yeah, maybe that doesn't have to be, that building doesn't have to be.
No,
the
but something like that. I
maybe
understand
some
what
other location downtown, or something maybe off the road, the way the Route 2 is beautiful.
Yeah.
People can just go off the road or something like that. So maybe that's a better location.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about the school system?
Sure. Our new elementary school is set to open still next September. It is a $90 million project that the city has undertaken, and I don't know how it stayed on timeline, if we're being completely honest with each other, because of the shortages that we've seen in different supplies for construction. But the steel came in on time, the windows came in on time. We are working on right now just buttoning up the building to be able to work on the inside during the winter. So that's the main focus right now, is just buttoning up the outside. It is located on Pearl Street, across the street from Dunn Park. And there is a connector road that connects it down by the middle school off of Catherine Street. The entrance for the school will be on Pearl Street. So it's not like people are going to be driving down Catherine Street to drop off the elementary students, to alleviate some of the extra traffic on Catherine Street as well. In terms of what it has in it, it's going to be 3 different wings, and each wing is the size of Gardner City Hall, to put that into perspective. So it is quite a large building, and it's going to combine the students in Elm Street School and Waterford Street School. The preschool, kindergarten, and first grade will be in one wing. The second, third, and fourth grade will be in another. And then the middle wing will also have some kindergarten classes, the cafeteria, the gym, the auditorium, and the main office spaces for the guidance counselors, the admin, things like that.
Mayor, could you tell us what the plans are for Waterford Street School and also for the old Elm Street School?
Sure. Let me finish with the rest of the stuff we're doing in our school first, just to get through that. And then I'll go back to that and make sure you remind me if I forget.
Sure.
Over at Gardner High School, we're replacing the gym and making that a little more modern there. We have a new gym floor that's going in over there, as well as redoing the entire auditorium at Gardner High School too. New carpet, chairs, paint, curtains, that all there. And it's also not very acoustically sound in that auditorium. So we are doing some changes there to make that a little more acoustic for the different concerts that we hold there with our students. Over in Gardner Middle School, we're doing a couple $100,000 project on replacing the lockers that were in there when the school was constructed in 1997. The lockers were 6 inches wide and 1 foot deep. So actually since 2016, the students have not been allowed to use the lockers in the building and had to carry all of their belongings around, because the teachers were noticing that because you had to wait for the person next to you to finish getting in their locker in order for you to be able to reach into your locker, it took too long for the students in between classes to change their books, because you had to have like a domino effect of waiting for the person next to you to be done first. So we have new lockers going into the middle school as well. On that side, our students all still have one-on-one computer devices, which is new as of last year. So we are adapting our curriculum to doing more computer-based learning, particularly with our science classes. While the labs are fun and we still do offer some hands-on labs, one of the main things of feedback we were getting from our science teachers is that you spent so much time trying to teach a student how to light a Bunsen burner that you didn't get to the analysis part of the lab. You got to the hands-on, this is the fun activity, but then we were neglecting okay, now what did you actually learn, because you learned this from that lab. So by having the computers out at the lab space, you're not only teaching the students how to light that Bunsen burner, but you're also saying, now this is how you can use your computer system or the data that's out there to analyze what you're seeing in that experiment at the same time. In terms of the old school buildings, Elm Street, we have to keep in some type of school-related capacity for the next 10 years, because we received grant funding from the State School Building Authority to fix up the windows, boilers, roof, and other aspects of the building. And under state regulations, if you no longer use a building for school-related purposes, after 20 years of receiving grant funding from the School Building Authority, the city owes that money back to the state. So I don't have $10 million to pay back the state, so we continue to use that.
I'm glad you're going to continue to use it.
Yeah, so it'll be the superintendent's office on one floor, and then some of our special education offices will still be on that one floor too, but it is still a full 3-story building. The Boys and Girls Club is deciding whether or not they want to move into Elm Street or into Waterford Street School. They're not sure yet because of the type of programming that they'll be offering. They don't know which school would be more conducive to that. I can tell you, they don't need all of Waterford and they don't need all of Elm Street. So they would just take a portion of either building that they go in.
Right.
In
Right.
terms of the other portion of Waterford Street School, the Community Action Center, the CAC's food pantry is looking at that, as well as some talks about potentially adding some senior center facilities over into Waterford Street School if the Boys and Girls Club doesn't go there, mainly because our current senior center is 3 floors.
Mhm.
And it's hard having senior activities on a building that has stairs.
Mhm.
So on a 1-floor building, you can kind of increase things that way. Those are the senior center side of things are still very early on. We don't know that for a fact yet. But the CAC would like to get out of the building that they're currently in on Pleasant Street, just to at least open up parking and different other programming areas that they have there. And the Boys and Girls Club will be going into one of those 2 buildings. The Gardner Academy School, which is our alternative dropout program for high school students, will remain in Helen May-Sauter.
Mhm. Okay.
Any other topics?
So the school system, it's really important, as Katie
Yeah.
Adams was pointing out the other day, is as we bring in, businesses and housing and all of that, it's like you need a locker for your kid to hang their backpack.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's, one of the reasons why it's just so important.
Yeah.
For the hospital or for the community, the college, is anything exciting going on there?
So the hospital, like the CAC, let me see if I have a picture of those there for you. Both have expansion projects currently ongoing. One second, I'm just looking for the right file to pull. The hospital is doing a $35 million expansion project over on Woodland Avenue. They'll be adding new operating rooms for the first time since the 1960s. One of the reasons why Haywood can't offer certain operations is because the new machines for laparoscopic surgery are too big to fit in a operating room that was constructed in the 1960s. The ceilings are too shallow. So they are doing a new expansion. Basically, if you look at where Haywood Hospital is now, where the parking lot is at the old emergency room entrance on Woodland Avenue, that is where they are building this new, what they're calling surgical pavilion. So it'll be 4 new operating rooms and I believe 30 new recovery rooms that they can fit these new robot machines in to do laparoscopic surgery, as well as dialysis, which we cannot currently offer at Haywood because, again, the size of the facility that's needed for that. Haywood has also purchased the 5 houses immediately abutting that property and will be tearing all of those down to re-put the parking lot that they took to build this pavilion in, to add that over there as well. And then Community Health Connections is doing a expansion project over on Timpani Boulevard. And that project there will do primary and family medical practice, dental, behavioral health, urgent care, and mental health counseling as well. And I did find that picture right here. So this is what the Community Health Center's expansion will look like on Timpani Boulevard. To orient you here, this is the street that's on Timpani Boulevard that you would take if you're getting your tires replaced at Walmart. And this is Walmart's property right here. So this is the old Kimmerline and Realty property off of Route 68 on your way to Rieta Ranch. And then this is the rendering of Haywood Hospital's new surgical wing that they're having in their expansion project over there. Eventually, Haywood Hospital's 10-year goal is to where their across the street buildings are, knock those buildings down and do some further expansion of office spaces over there to have some different family practice offices over there to kind of consolidate where they are in the city, and then have a bridge over Green Street that connects the full campus together.
Okay. Community events, anything you wanted to point out that's going on, or?
We are back to doing all of our community events. The food truck festival is already in plans again. We're going to stick with July. A lot of people like the July date for that one this past year. So we're going to stick with July for the food truck festival. The Caroling with the Mayor and the downtown festival of trees at the museum, the downtown tree lighting, those are all set to go off as regularly planned as well. The tree lighting will take place the Sunday after Thanksgiving, as it always does in Lafayette Square. We'll parade from City Hall down to Lafayette Square. The museum is offering all of their events. We are brainstorming different events to bring into the city to kind of get people into the area. A lot of that I can tell you we're waiting until after some of the work in the major downtown area is done that we've gone over. So that when it's done, we can highlight, we have a new event plaza on Rear Main Street. Let's have an event at the event plaza on Rear Main Street. So we are still brainstorming what to do then, but we're hoping to do something soon. Dennis Quaid's TV show will be airing within the next 3 or 4 weeks from what we're hearing on PBS and the Discovery Channel that highlighted Gardner. One of the cool things with that is that Gardner actually retains all the rights, not only to the footage that's shown on the air, but for all of the footage that didn't make the cut as well for us to use for our own marketing purposes, and we get that free of charge. So that should be something that the city can use a lot moving forward as well.
So no virtual mayor caroling this year?
There'll be a hybrid, actually.
Yeah.
We'll be doing the in-person, and then we've already gone out and asked everyone who gave caroling videos last year to send them back so that we can still do an online version, mainly because one of the unintended side effects of that was that people who used to live in Gardner who don't live in the area anymore really like that video, and they're like, oh, I remember that place, or I went here, or I liked seeing that picture. That we got a good feedback on it. So if we got that much positive feedback on it, why stop it? So we're going to be in-person caroling around the downtown like we always do, but there will still be a virtual caroling with the mayor as well for anyone who wants to participate.
As a realtor community, are there things that we can do for you?
I think one of the things that we'd like to get out there more it's new in the city, and I'll show you how to get there as well, is that we have a new online system for people to see what's going on here in the city. And watch this be the moment my Wi-Fi cuts out. Okay, on the city's GIS mapping page, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with from the property record viewer map, right next to it, you'll see what's called map of city projects. And this is new as of August here in the city. And when you click on that and it loads, if everything works, we're going to give that a second. If everything works, what will pop up on that screen is every current ongoing city project that exists currently in Gardner. And when you click on that project, it'll tell you how much that project costs, what its approximate timeline is, where it's located, where that funding came from. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if that helps it load for a bit, and then I'll go back to it once it loads for sure. But that's something we want to get out there more, is people always ask us what's going on, and then they seem surprised when they see what's going on. And a lot of that's because when you drive by something every day on your way to work, on your way to the grocery store, and you drive by it so much, it gets familiar. And it sticks in the back of your mind as that's happening over there, but I'm going to forget about it because I drive by it every day. That you forget some of the stuff that's going on. So as a way to highlight that and bring that up again, we made this map so that people can actually see everything that's going on. Or if you drive by something and you're curious about what's going on, you can actually find this map, click it, and get all that information there as well. So I think getting that information out there helps show everything we're doing in the city and what projects are going on, how we're helping our school system, how we're helping the infrastructure, how we're helping and investing in the city that way, what different apartment complexes are going in and where this redevelopment is happening. That's something that I think would be helpful. But other than that, I think another thing that would be helpful for us is if you're going around with your clients and you hear the same question happening again and again between showings or meetings and things like that, let us know. Because that's how we get informed. One of the things that we try to make sure that doesn't happen here in City Hall is that we stay in our little City Hall bubble, and that we think, oh, we think this, so this is the only thing that can happen. But there's new people coming into Gardner. It's not so much people moving from Gardner to another section in Gardner. It's people from outside coming in that bring that new, fresh perspective that if we don't hear about, we can't meet what they're looking for. So finding new ideas through that way would be very helpful for us as well too.
And you do weekly, sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Okay, good. Oh, I just wanted to add that I think the census indicated that Gardner had an increase in population.
We did.
Yeah, which was not like 10 years ago. That was not the case. I don't believe.
No, we dropped 10 years ago and we went back up to 21,000 now.
Right, so that's why I just wanted, which is a good sign. Go ahead, Michelle. Sorry about that. Yep.
No, I see that the map is up.
Yeah, so if you go and like, you click on a road, the pink means that it was part of our water main replacement project. So if you click on that, up here will come a list of all the different roads. I should say I'm on my laptop device, and City Hall is a brick building, so that's why some of this is happening here. But if you click on it, there'll be a page that comes up that has all of the different projects that we're working on. A lot of the ARPA funding projects are in here. Different type of things like that. So you can click here. My Wi-Fi does seem to be down at the time for that type of projects, but you can see that that's how you find that information. And if you're wondering what's going on in the city, you can find where it is on the map. And some different revitalization projects that way. And if you have any questions on that, feel free to let me know. Go ahead, Michelle.
And you do weekly updates too? So how does
Yeah.
someone get to view that?
Yeah, so my weekly updates are posted on the city's website, the City Hall Facebook page. I put them on my own Facebook page, and they are on the City Hall YouTube page. That's everything that happened in the past week and what to expect in the upcoming week. We do those every single week, and we want to make it a point not to skip a week, because it's aired on GETV as well. And the one time we did skip a week, we got a lot of people saying, I missed the update, what's going on? I like that. If anything, it helped me learn where to avoid when I'm driving to work that day, because I heard that there was going to be road construction happening on that area. So those are different things that we just use to try to get people informed in the area and try to bring City Hall into the comfort of people's homes. So you can find those on the Gardner City Hall YouTube page, the Gardner City Hall website, and the Gardner City Hall Facebook page as well. Every Friday at noon, they get released. I pre-record them on Thursdays, and then they're scheduled to get released Friday at noon.
Does anyone else have comments or questions before we wrap up?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor. If you have DirecTV, you can't get, the local access television. You can't get the city council meetings and the school committee, whatever. Is there any way that could change, where anybody who has a dish or anything like that could get it on, local TV, their own TV?
So the local access station is actually funded through Comcast payment to the city for their franchise fee. That's why Council President Kaczynskis and I have signed a joint order. It's not an executive order, because she signed that as well, saying that all of our public meetings have to be recorded and uploaded to the city's YouTube page. That way people get access to it, even if they don't have local cable TV, because they have dish TV.
Oh, okay. They can get it
So we
through
signed a
YouTube.
brand new order that requires all of our boards and commissions to record their meetings and put them up on the city's YouTube.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Good.
Okay. So just one last comment. You had mentioned, your friends that you went to school with are kids. So some kids, age is relative, and some people are always going to be kids, or always be like my baby or whatever. So that's just part of the process. But thank you, Mayor Nicholson, for meeting with us. We appreciate you, and we appreciate all the time that you spent and everything that you shared.
No, absolutely. And I do apologize. My Wi-Fi didn't work for that little bit that's there. But if you have any questions at all on any of the projects I talked about, anything I wasn't able to get to today that I forgot about, or any other things that you're hearing from your clients, please feel free to reach out to my office at any time. Myself, Colin, or Rachel are happy to talk to anyone who's interested or has any questions here. And if we don't know the answer, we'll find the answer and we'll get back to you. Our job is what I view kind of similar to your job, is that we have to sell our city. And it's our job to make sure people have a place that they view as a place that they're proud to call their home. They're happy to live here. They're happy to see what's going on, and they know what's going on. So if there's any way we can help you, please always feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
great day.
Take care. You too.
Bye-bye now.